So we'll start with a little test. I'm from Pacific Life. How many of you have seen our commercials and know what represents us? What is it?
Well.
Thank you. It is this year that we're celebrating the 150th, and that's really exciting. I think I heard that in the Fortune 500, there's only like 14 companies that are older than us. So it's really a great place to be. At the same time, you can imagine a company that's 150 years old that we have a way of doing things that we've become good at. We're risk adverse. Being in insurance, that's kind of a given, and you'd have to be risk adverse to stay in business for this long. So those are some of the strengths for us. My division is Retirement Solutions. We've been around for 20 years. So a little less steeped in all the same processes, but still, 20 years of getting an opportunity to do things a certain way. We offer annuities, mutual funds, structured settlements, pension risk transfers, and even in the annuities, we have like a full suite from variable to fixed to index to SPIAs, DIAs, etc. So we've really expanded the whole product line a lot. And yet one of the things that we differentiate ourselves on is customer service. Now, one of the advantages of being the last session of the conference is I've gotten to hear a lot of other use cases. And it's amazing to me, everybody differentiates on customer service. So I'm not sure if it's really true that other companies in insurance and finance differentiate on something else, or if it's just those who differentiate on customer service that select Appian. I haven't figured it out yet. But it's important to us to look at our customers, both the policyholders and the intermediaries. We primarily work through intermediaries. Our retail line is almost completely through intermediaries, but although many times they really do want to go to their broker and talk about it, sometimes they come to us, and it's important for us to give them the good service too. The pension risk transfer and structured settlements, there's really no broker involved afterwards, and so the customer service is a key point for us. Our mission, champion every client's retirement goals with passion and integrity, is something we really, really buy into in all the discussions as we're trying to look at trade-offs. You can see that has permeated the culture. That's really what people think about. And because of that, we've started using some of the things like customer journey mapping and analytics, et cetera, to recognize and adapt to changing expectations. Every time the bar got higher on customer service, our ops folks are right in there saying, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing that somebody's going to be asking for, and what do we do to keep up there? On the generational switch implications, I think it's kind of something that's interesting that's occurring in our business line is a lot of the broker-dealers pass the business down to their kids. And so what we're seeing is the generational difference isn't a couple of years different each year, but we get a big generational jump. And as we get that generational jump, there's a couple things that are occurring. One of them is these younger kids are coming in with brand new ideas, and dad's listening. And one of the other things is they're not just jumping to sons. So we're getting to see some difference there. I'm not going to go through the whole use case of why we chose what we did, but I wanted to carry on the theme because a lot of it is very similar. We had a situation actually very kind of similar to Anton's, where he shows the big boat and the little boat, right? So we had our big retail group, and for institutional lines, we had just a chaotic set of shoebox kind of applications that we brought together into this. And we decided to do it in many ways very similar, where we didn't just get steeped in what was happening, but what was it that we needed to do, and built the processes around that. So what I decided to talk more about is the cultural aspects of this, and how having Appian helped us with making that cultural change. So for our division, actually for our company, there's been a big focus on innovation. I think a lot of companies are. We had people that went off to the D school, the Stanford school, went to IDEO, sessions and brought in IDEO consultants and all of this, right? So really trying to get to understand that whole, what are the next steps with innovation thinking? What can we do with design thinking? How can we use the customer journey maps, et cetera, to pull it all together? And one of the things that my team looked at kind of as an exception from the rest of our division was how to bring Agile in really early on. And bringing in Appian was actually part of the impetus for that. When we started working with the professional services, and they said, you use Agile, right? We said, we know how to spell it. I had used it in the past, but it wasn't a common practice for our part of the company. So we got some Agile training, Agile coaching, reached out to the other people within the organization that had done something with Agile to try to understand, what did you have to do to get exceptions, or, how has it worked for you? And we really, really tried to practice it to a strong degree. And my team kept holding me to account on, we're not doing it enough. It's supposed to be more pure. And it's difficult sometimes to do that. But we were lucky that we were able to get a product owner from the business who sat down with us and mapped out epics, who sat down and wrote the user stories, really got into the whole process. And some of the things that we learned through that, just absolutely amazing for our next Agile project, right? And now our division has recognized the need to actually fully embrace Agile. They're looking to our team now to help lead that, to share the learnings, and take us in that direction. Flex staffing is another thing that we felt was very important, partly because we didn't want to just build all the expertise internally, but we wanted to be in that position where if anybody wants to do more with BPM, we don't want them standing in line waiting for technology. We want to be able to have a vendor partner who can ramp up very quickly. So we worked with Persistent, and they became our offshore nurture team, helped us develop, and we're continuing to work with them right now. And I think that it has put us in a good position to be able to increase the throughput if we have the projects that can't be handled by the current. Some other things that we're doing, hackathons and mob programming. Has anybody here heard of mob programming? It's kind of a localized thing. San Diego, I think, is where it was I first heard about it. An organization called Hunter Irrigation. My company is in Newport Beach, so we're not very far from there. And some of the folks have taken field trips down to see what it's about. But basically, with mob programming, instead of just the paired programming where you have the developers, you actually have the whole team that's sitting there and part of it. And it sounds really counterintuitive. If you think about scrumming and everybody on it together, it's like all the great minds that are doing this together. And does it feel like, wow, it's just too many people on it and a big waste of time? And yet what we have found at this point is that the knowledge transfer that's occurring is really amazing. So the analyst might get their hands on the keyboard, the QA person might get their hands on the keyboard, and they bring these new ideas and new thoughts to it. And what we really encourage in this is that reflection that you would expect in Agile. So what is it we're doing right? What do we want to change? How should we adapt to make it better? And then creating the psychological safety and empowerment, I think, is almost like a natural byproduct of that if you're doing it well. And then I'm not going to go into all of, there's a lot of, there's a vast ecosystem, but I really wanted to focus on the cultural aspects, and of course having the right ecosystem for that cultural change to digital transformation is important. So tools that can allow or encourage innovation. It's not impossible using COBOL, but it's a little harder. So having something like Appian here can make a really big difference when you go to your folks and you say, here's what we want you to do, here's how we want you to experiment, and they're not encumbered with the legacy mentality and the legacy tools. We have a cloud-first strategy with the appropriate guardrails, and those are constantly, what those guardrails are will get challenged, I think, constantly, I think particularly on the security front. It's too easy for our business to just go out and sign up for something and click through and download it, and or not even download it, but just be using it in the cloud. So that's an area that we're focusing on a lot. Separating the layers to interact with legacy apps through APIs or other methods. Automated testing, we were able to have the automation develop just 1 week behind. So we had 2 week sprints, and the automation was coming in 1 week behind. So our regression test was there from day 1. And then citizen development is the thing that we're looking at now. Again, wanting to do it in the right way with understanding the cultural implications, as well as the what kind of guardrails may be necessary there. And for us, Appian becomes one of those key tools in driving agility, innovation, and transformation. That's the end of my slides.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Kathy. So, that's not cool.